We're live. Welcome. Welcome to the Business Freedom Conversation live stream. I'm Greg Andrick, and we're going to talk about some great stuff today. So our subject matter today is what everybody should and is interested in, but doesn't really like to talk about. Where's the cash? You come off like a charlatan if you're talking about it. This isn't a get-rich-quick scheme. This is the elements that'll have your business flowing the way you want it to be. Pretty much in this life, having money in your pocket is equated to freedom. That's why we call it the Business Freedom Conversation. 39% of you answered a LinkedIn survey a year or two ago that the main reason you started a business was to have more freedom. And unfortunately, a lot of you find out that the business kind of controls you. So today we're going to talk about where's the cash. So let me go over and show you, start with the subject matter here. So the first thing we're going to talk about is structure. And that's how you structure your business. I start with this because this is really critical. Also, I think it's critical because I think this is something that I see a lot that people aren't able to comprehend. And I think it's because it's kind of an abstract thing how you lay things out. In accounting, when you take intermediate accounting, that's when you can function with abstract ideas. And structure of your business so that it's in your favor is kind of an abstract you've got to get down. We're going to cover that. Marketing and positioning. This is one that I see all the time. And this one's kind of a soul-searching one for a lot of people, is how you do your marketing and how you position your company, your service, your product, whatever it is that you're doing. It's critical. And oftentimes I find that most people don't really measure this very well or know where they are in the marketplace, and hence it affects the results. The next one is sales and collections. And you might think, why do we have collections connected to sales? Well, the reason we do that is because cash is king. In other words, you make a sale because you want to receive cash at some point in the process. And the sales process, I basically split this down later. The sales process is dramatically affects the collections. And we're going to go over this as what happens in sales that affects your ability to get cash after you make the sale. This is a huge one, and this one has come back as number one. According to the National Foundation of Independent Businesses, I am a member there. I'm a member because they run surveys continuously. Every month they run a survey. Employees have become the number one problem, even ahead of inflation again. In other words, everybody's having such a hard time with this subject. We're going to cover it. There's some best practices there. It affects everything, but you have a lot of options, and I think it's modern thinking that will help you determine which one of those options you take. Now, this is a big one, and this is one that everybody knows about it, and everybody does something with it, but I'm not sure everybody has the best practices and are still dealing with the problems that arise in this area of social media management. Social media management isn't just being on social media. That's where the word management's on there. There are a lot of things one must do to get positive results. And I think most people are not doing those things, and hence they're having these problems. We're still at a level where nearly 40% of small business owners have job openings, and somewhere around the middle 20s, 23, 4, 5% of you are getting zero response to your ads. That's probably due to this. You need to manage your footprint in social media and do it in such a way that it works. So let's move on to our first one. So this is a flow chart. And this is why I think most people have a problem with structuring their business optimally for them. You need to, put it in an optimal way where at the end of the day, you're the one putting the most money in your pocket. Remember, you're generating all this money for your vendors, your employees, and you're providing these valuable services for your customers. So, and I think because, excuse me, the way this works, this is why it's hard for most people to picture this. So let's talk about how you structure your business to where you're the one on top. So your workflow, I'm talking about the flow of it, equals success. And I see, when I go into a lot of businesses and I see them, and they accept the terms that their vendors want. They accept the terms that their employees want. They buy things that the inventory, and then they try to sell it rather than matching up the delivery with the sale and then starting their cash period. So you need to create a positive workflow that you're the one on top. You've got people out there that, like Procter & Gamble tries to get 90 days out of all its vendors. Why is that? Because Procter & Gamble makes their customers pay them within 30 days. So Procter & Gamble is always trying to get paid 3 times before they have to pay their supplier once. That's what you have to do here. This is a lot easier to do on the front end than it is when you set everything up, but it's still possible to structure to where your cash flow and your profits are sitting there, and it's capable for you to make a draw if you structure how your workflow is. Yes, Tommy, procurement strategies, that's a big one, and that helps. And it takes a lot of, we'll see, it takes a lot of interpersonal skills to get these workflows to work. Trust me, the company I'm still the CFO for just had Walgreens tell them they want to pay within 80 days and get a 2% discount at 80 days. Like, wow, okay, good luck with that. But those are the things you're going to have to deal with to make this work. So it is, when you say procurement strategies, it's when you buy and when you pay. That is critical. And if you do it on the front end and you go to a vendor, or if you provide services, it's the way you structure that. It's when you have to pay for things and when you engage and when your cash flow is going to come in. That's what one needs to structure, and that's where the interpersonal skills come in. You center your expenses around your customer and your client payment. I once called on a business that was doing $90 million a year, and all of their stuff, they would create the inventory, buy it, sit on top of it, and then have their marketing campaign start. Well, and they were complaining that there was never any money for the partners of this business that was doing $90 million a year to make a draw. And I pointed out to them, well, you've got to do it where the goods are delivered at the beginning of your campaign, and you don't have to pay for the goods until after the campaign. And that they kind of scratched their head, but that's what one has to do. But this is where the interpersonal skills come in. If your vendor won't do it, you need to find another vendor. You need to structure things that are centered around what you bring to the party. Like I said, it's easier said than done. You get a lot of resistance, and vendors want to change terms. If you're a service provider, it means you need to get your money up front. But still, if you pay your employees every 2 weeks, you've got a 2-week gap where you can work within that on your cash flow if your services are being provided by employees. And like I keep saying, this is where the interpersonal skills come in. This is where knowing how to deal with people. It isn't a yes, please. There's a whole process of how you ask for terms with your employees, with your customers, with your vendors. And these things have to be lined up for you so that at the end of the day, you have money to put in your pocket. So there's the first set of workflow. So this is something that I see all of the time, an incomplete or non-existent marketing plan. If you're going to have a successful business, you have to decide who your customers are, what your marketing is, how you're going to touch them. And it has to be looked at constantly. So what is unique about your product or service? This has to be laid out right up front. You have to find what is totally different about your product or service compared to your competitors, or it's going to be a long day. Make the name of the product or service key on the benefit. I see a lot of things out there where it's a descriptive title. Customers don't want descriptions, they want benefits. You have to center your offering, be it a service or a product, around what it does. And then make your part the unique part about what it does, because it's a very competitive world out there. You might have to change the name of your existing products, but guess what? The most used word in marketing is new. So if you are an also ran, or if you're a Me Too and you're wondering why your sales aren't stronger, then you probably need a name change on your products or services that keys in to the benefit. Make it easy for the customer to know why they're buying. Who is your market? Zero in on them. You've had several major companies make huge changes in the last year. The two that come to mind are Walmart and Pepsi. Walmart in the first quarter of 2023 had an 84% profit increase. Why? Because they looked at their customer base and they've sharpened it and focused it on a more upscale customer. How funny is that? Walmart focusing on upscale, but they focused on people who had more money to spend and wanted to be economical and seek bargains. The other one was Pepsi. Pepsi got rid of most of their promotions. Now, Pepsi's kind of controversial because they just got kicked out of a major food chain in Europe because of how large the price increases have been. If anybody's looked at a bag of Fritos lately, you're going to see what the president was talking about in the State of the Union, shrinkflation. Well, they've had massive price increases and shaped their products, but guess what? It's all about the bottom line, and they have a really big bottom line. So who's your market? Key in on them and make sure they understand the benefit. And here's one I see all of the time. I have never been to a client that really knew what they were selling. That when I go in and run the numbers, find out, it's a little different than what you were telling me. And that's critical. And that means you have to look at the numbers all the time. The metrics drive your marketing. What is selling? At what price points? With who? And that will drive what you're going to see next, improving your cash position. So this one is about positioning. So it's marketing and positioning. You have to do those basics I just showed you in the slides, but make sure that you're the one that stands out for your unique position. Who is your customer base? Who are they? What do they want? How do you get it to them? So where are you positioned in the marketplace? That's a critical one. Who is your best customer? In other words, really zero in. That's what Pepsi and Walmart and several others did. McDonald's is doing it right now. Now, this is one that I talk about all the time. You need to create a Madonna moment. What's a Madonna moment? Well, Madonna put this dead pinstripers hat, Von Dutch, on her head, and it wound up on the cover of magazines, and all of a sudden Christian Louboutin was the hottest designer, and he had this huge line that he has today and has done other products off of it. You need to figure out how to break from the pack and then feed off of those bigger positions. So when you identify who your market is, you have to have some crystallizing events that really connects with an image of who they are. And you may not be able to afford it, or you may. You know, it depends on how you get in there. Sometimes some of these people that are famous do things because they simply like them. That's something you need to try and find. So let's see here where we're going. All right, so here's the sales process. So I don't know if you all know, but I'm now a professor. Utah State University has the #1 sales program in the country. We have companies, everybody's laying off, and we have Adobe and Enterprise Rent-A-Car and some really big companies coming to us to hire our students because I think why they do mostly is their students are experienced and we do a lot of role playing. So they actually are selling while they're learning, not just reading something in a book. So the sales process is critical in your overall lifeblood of your business. If you don't follow all the steps, so on this particular slide, I liked it because it said prospecting, your initial meeting, you gather your data, the proposal design, implementation, and then going on through to a follow-up. Well, most sales processes, we use Griffin Hill. They're the integrity selling program. There's steps to the process, and each step to the process is critical for what happens with the customer later. And if you don't follow all of the steps in the sales process, you're likely to have a less committed customer, and that affects the thing we're going to study in a little bit, collections. But so assess your salespeople. You would not have a car that you never took to the mechanic if something was wrong with it. So assess your salespeople. There are several assessments out there. Here's the most interesting thing. The number one problem with salespeople that comes out of these assessments, that people are like sales managers, sales representatives, etc., is they can't ask for the sale. They're really good at the presentation, everything, until they get to the end. And in our culture, it's just a psychological kind of thing. So get your people assessed. And it doesn't mean, when the assessment comes back and you have issues, it identifies the issues and you can fix them. But if you're not assessing your salespeople, it's going to be a long, hard road. And these assessments only cost a few $100s. Think about what you're paying them weekly and not getting performance. So this is, like I said, tuning up your car. Get your salespeople certified. When you do a certification like the one we use at Utah State is Griffin Hill, the salesperson is going to know what all those steps are. They also need to be monitored, and use a CRM. The number one correlation between sales performance and results is not how skilled your people are. It's how many shots on goal they make. If you make sure that they make enough phone calls, enough visits. So with Utah State, I went with 5 students in November to New Jersey, and we visited 2 alumni that are in the sales department of LinkedIn. And the one person who was doing really well said, I just do my metrics and the numbers flow. There's for LinkedIn. So set activity targets, because it's the activity target that you're going to monitor in the CRM. Once you know that your people can ask for the sale and they're following a certified sales process, if they hit the targets, you're going to hit your sales. And follow the process. If you don't follow the process, you're not going to have the sales and you're going to have problems later on. So the reason we do all this is cash is king. The reason you want sales is because you want cash. And if you don't follow the processes, then you're going to have issues relating to how your customers are committed to your product. That's why it's so critical to identify who your key customer is, what the market is, hone in on it. If you accept everything, then you get uncommitted customers and you're going to have problems later in the process. Follow the sales process. Go through all of the steps in the sales process. And when you look at the 8 steps of the Griffin Hill process, you're going to see that some of them are there that may seem redundant, but they're there for a purpose because it helps to set the hook deeper and make the customer more committed. Establish the pain and benefits of your product. If you don't do this with customers, you're going to have payment problems and you're going to have disaffections. And those customers are going to leave you because they don't understand what you do for them. Establish it. Here's a huge one that gets jumped over just because the customer shows interest. You must qualify the customer. I see this all the time. So somebody's interested, but they're not qualified and have the ability to buy your product. And then you have problems later on and you don't have cash. Use payment incentives. When you use incentives, you're going to zero in on the real people that you want that are committed to your product. That's exactly what Pepsi did. They got rid of all of these different things that were lowering their margins and went to their key customers and built up the business with higher margins. Margins are kind of the name of the game. Then monitor your salespeople. It goes back to what we were talking about with the CRM. Make sure you know what they're doing inside of the process so that you get the results that you want. Now, all this can be lined up. And then again, it boils down to metrics. It's the legwork you have to do to stay ahead of the game. You don't look at the numbers, you don't get the results. It's that simple. Okay, so we're going back to the big one, and this includes salespeople, the employees that deliver the services and the goods. This has become a really huge problem. And look at all the things on the slide here about motivation, communication, recognition, work-life balance. Right now, we're in a situation, and everybody's wondering how long this is going to last, where it's an employee favorable position. Because the government pumped out trillions and trillions of dollars in stimulus, everybody's still sitting on that pile of money. And the attitude in a recent survey, 2/3 are not, well, we've known this for a really long time. 2/3 of your employees are not engaged. This means you should take a very hard look at outsourcing. I am not a great proponent of outsourcing, but look, if you're paying people and they're just shuffling paper, of the 2/3 of your employees, 50% are doing the bare minimum just to get by. 17% want to hurt you. 17% are not happy with their pay, their benefits, their hours, whatever it is, and they actually want to hurt you. You need to find out who these people are. Outsourcing is one way to get rid of that. Think of what the result on your bottom line would be if you could have, of the 50% that are not working, if you could get half of those people working. What do you think would be the results of your company? So AI and robotic process automation, we jumped ahead 2 lines here, but AI and robotic process automation are another thing besides outsourcing that can dramatically improve your business. There's a lot of people out there that can do this for you, that can review things. I can point you in the right direction is where you find people that do this. With AI, and the one you don't hear as much about, but it really started the whole AI thing, is robotic process automation. Recurring tasks can be automated, and you might not need so many employees, and that's how you cut down on the fact that half your employees are just shuffling, and 17% want to hurt you, which means 2/3 of your employees are not doing the job. The other thing which I mentioned before about the salespeople, there are assessments. These should be done at a minimum annually. People change. Assessments will tell you where people are sitting. They will tell you how they are in their job, what they're thinking. You've got to do it. It's like just like getting your car tuned up, or changing the oil on your motor, whatever it is that you're doing, anything, changing the filters, your air conditioner at your home. Assessments are what you need to do with employees to make sure that they're still viable, working, and doing the thing you want. Now, both reviews, both internal and external. So the internal review is the one you give the employee, which you should do an assessment of the employee before, and the external one is on Glassdoor and the other places, and heed what it says over there. And that's a major way to get your employees back on track. So we're down to the last section that is a kind of a tricky one and a really interesting, but there's massive dividends to be paid by managing your social media footprint. So establish what that is. Where do you want to show up with social media? What do you do with it? And the critical part is your reviews. Now, here's a really interesting thing. I've had on my live stream Matt Vance. He's a friend of mine. He has a business with handling reviews. He also has a business that will help you hire people by fixing all your Glassdoor, et cetera, issues. Monitor your reviews. Now, this is really fascinating. There's a couple of studies that have been done, and those studies have shown that if you respond to 40% of your reviews, not 100%, not 10%, 20%, if you honestly respond to 40% of your product or service reviews on the various review sites, you will see a 40%, well, it's actually a 50% increase in sales. That is a mind-blowing number, and I went and checked this out. And in essence, what you're doing, if you honestly, you have to do it in a good way. You can't be defensive. You can't be aggressive. One must respond to the reviews, and not all of them, just key critical ones in an honest fashion. You are recovering 50% of the people that looked at your reviews and decided to pass. So in other words, if you have adequate reviews, people that would have passed on your product or service will consider you, and half of them will buy. It's a massive improvement. Respond, this is what I'm talking about. Monitor the reviews and respond to them. And the employee reviews are critical. So those of you out there that are saying you're not getting any response to your ad, that's about 25% of you. The other situation that's happening is 1/3 of job offers are being ghosted. And they're being ghosted because an employee interviews, you make them an offer, then what happens is they go to Glassdoor or one of the other work websites and they see some negative stuff they don't like, and you didn't respond, and they just ghost the job offer. That's pretty disheartening when you consider how hard it is to get to that point. So adjust to your feedback. So it doesn't mean just respond. You have to take this to heart and fix the elements in your business for that feedback so that you don't get the negative feedback in the future. If people keep seeing the same negative reviews over and over again, months apart, you're going to have problems with customers and employees, even vendors, because we live in a social media age where everybody looks at this. So there you have it. Those are the steps to where's the cash. These are the elements on how you adjust your business to make it optimal, to where you're going to sell better, manage your employees better, and at the end of the day, you're going to have money to draw because you've structured it correctly. But like I said, that just doesn't happen with a snap of the fingers or asking a simple question, oh, can you change my terms to 90 days? It takes interpersonal skills of dealing with your employees and your vendors and your customers to arrange these things. But the most successful companies do this. This is not impossible. And in fact, when you know the way to present it to, say, your vendors, when you know how to present it to your vendor, then your vendor is much more receptive when they understand and really honor and value your business to give you a term that works for you, rather than having terms where you're cash strapped all the time. Get them to invest in your business, just like your employees. Get them working for you. You're going to make a lot more money and do a lot better and be a lot more effective. Those people who can get their employees engaged, doing an assessment, have 44% higher customer satisfaction. That generally translates to dollars because points of customer satisfaction translate to repeat business. And the most economical business you can get is your repeat business, that people are satisfied with you, how your employee handled them, the quality of the product or service, and the timeliness of it all, and that they are all committed to it. And that also goes all the way back to that marketing of making sure that you are dealing with the people who really want your product and that they're committed. And the only reason you get to that is by refining and defining your marketing and sales effort. So there you have it. There's the business freedom conversation on where's the cash. I'm going to post when the post goes up, I'm going to put a freebie for you, and you will see it. It's called the Stagflation Success Playbook, because it seems like everything's slowing down, and that Stagflation Success Playbook has the 9 things that the big boys are doing. I want to point out in my last minute here that in the end of last quarter, the Standard & Poor's 500, like the 500 companies that Standard & Poor's considers most important, had an 88% of them beat their profit forecast, and 77% of them were under their sales forecast. So what happened there? Well, they did the 9 things that are in this startup playbook, Stagflation Success Playbook. So take a look at it. It's free, no commitments, no nothing, and let me know what you think of it. So this is Greg Andrick, Business Freedom Conversation live stream. It'll be up on my YouTube channel, the Greg Andrick Business Freedom Conversation YouTube channel. Enjoy. I hope this helped you and will make you extremely successful. Thank you.